You're listening to the Station 71 podcast with your hosts, Mario,
Beth,
and Brian.
So this week we're going to do another relaxed show. This week and next week you'll notice that we're going to be missing Kirsten, which for us is always very weird when one of us is missing, but she's going to Disney, so we're super excited. This week I want to take a moment and continue to talk about our news topics like we said we were going to start doing again. So let's start off with a pretty laid back one. Disney announced that The Last Jedi sequences are coming to Star Tours fairly soon, actually. It looks like we're going to be getting a new sequence in the Walt Disney World park on November 17th. And it's going to be the planet from the trailer. If anybody saw that, I know I'm super excited about Last Jedi, so this is really awesome for me. What about you guys? You guys hyped about a new Star Tours scene?
Yeah, I love that. It's so easy for them to put these sorts of updates in there because it's really maximizes rewritability.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a huge Star Tours fan. I do enjoy it. I'm just not a big fan of projection-based rides, but I do think that Disney's doing this right. One thing that projection-based rides gives you is the opportunity to very easily mix things up and keep it fresh for all your guests. So Disney's definitely doing it right that way.
Right. I think the only thing that stinks about that is that now Star Tours has so many scenes that it's so easy to just kind of miss that one, which is, it's kind of great for this park because at the same time, there's not many rides going on in studios right now. So, give more rewritability to one of your better rides, and I think that's definitely, like you said, doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about, we kind of had some talk about this in our group chat, but we got concept art today and new information about the NBA experience, which is funny because I'm pretty sure we all thought this was dead.
Yeah.
Did either of you take a look at the concept art?
I haven't yet.
It looks pretty cool, but I don't care about sports. I'm sorry.
I don't care about basketball, I don't think. And I don't know, the space looks cool, but the fact that it's got that giant screen kind of looks a lot like the NBC bar grill thing at City Walk.
Mm-hmm.
So the building design itself doesn't seem as exciting to me as I kind of would expected.
It reminds me of I guess you fly in to Disney, right, Mario?
Yeah,
and
it's a 20-hour drive if I don't.
Oh god, yeah. So, and I don't know what direction or how far you are, Brian, or what direction you go. But there's when I drive from South Carolina, there's a building that looks really similar to this that I pass, and it's super bright and lit up, and it has a huge screen, and so that's kind of what this reminded me of. It's
and the shape of the building.
95.
Sorry.
It's on 95 on the way down.
The shape of the building kind of is a little bit similar to the Tron ride.
Yeah.
It's got that weird, curvy design. It's neat, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I can see all of the things that it looks like they borrowed it from.
Yeah, and I guess it's I can kind of understand where they're coming from with this because when people are on, maybe not necessarily basketball. I'm sure there are diehard basketball fans. Me being from South Carolina, where everybody's really, really into football. I'm sure it's like that everywhere, but everybody's college football especially. And, when people are on vacation, if they're that diehard, they want to have a place to watch whatever game, whatever team they root for. And so it's that's cool in a way. It gives them a spot to do that. But you could also go to Boardwalk and go to ESPN Club. I don't know.
Have either of you been to ESPN Club? Because I never have, so I have no experience with that.
Not in a real long time.
I used the bathroom there once.
Oh, so you know everything about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an expert. But yeah, that's my experience with it.
What was your experience with it, Brian, when you did go? Like, what do you remember from it?
Honestly, it not being that much different than kind of a similar sports bar setup, like a Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just tons of TVs everywhere that they're showing the games on, and sports bar type food, very similar.
I will say that one cool thing, like I said, I don't really care about sports. Everybody has their thing. If sports is your thing, awesome. But the really cool thing, like I said, all I did was use the bathroom, but they had like literally TVs in the bathroom, so you don't like have to miss any of the game. I
That's
was like,
kind of funny.
that'd be really cool for a sports fan.
Yeah.
I wish they did that at, like, movie theaters, when you go to the bathroom. So you don't miss the movie. I don't know.
Gosh. Have to like insert your ticket and it just continues the movie on the screen.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
But the only details that we really got about it is pretty much kind of what we already knew. It's going to be, I guess, similar to Disney Quest, in the fact that it's going to have entertainment and it says competition, interactive games and competitions, immersive experiences, and a retail store adjacent to a restaurant. So I guess that's kind of what we figured, I think.
Yeah.
At least it's what I kind of thought it was going to be. But
Yeah, me too.
it's coming. And it should be here in the summer of 2019. That was the other detail that we got.
Yeah. I think the quote at the end of the article is interesting because it says Sal LaRocca, the NBA president of Global Partnerships, said about the project that this one-of-a-kind experience is sure to be enjoyed by basketball and Disney fans of all ages who visit Disney Springs from around the world. And so I'm just like, I'm interested to see how they captured the Disney side. Like if they're really gonna stick to that. Because, I mean, I don't know why he would have thrown that in if they didn't have something Disney-related planned.
It's going to be pictures of Mickey Mouse in basketball shorts on the wall. That's my bet.
It would be really cool if they did, like, a meet and greet, and they're, like, in athletic gear.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cute. I would do that. I wouldn't pay to go do it, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like that's kind of a thing that they have to say because it is going in Disney Springs, and that's kind of like they have to say that it's going to appeal to the Disney fan. We'll see how it goes in 2019, but for now I'm going to reserve my judgment on it, I think.
Yeah.
And then the last one that we are going to talk about before we dive into our big, fun, exciting thing that we're going to be talking about tonight is that dogs will be welcome at select Disney World hotels starting October 15th. I saw a lot of like very mixed things about this on social media. And I have some thoughts about it as well, but we'll get to that in a second. The 4 resorts that you can stay at are Art of Animation, Disney Port Orleans Riverside, Yacht Club, and Disney Fort Wilderness Resort. There's a couple stipulations as well. There's a maximum of 2 dogs per guest room that can be accommodated, and each guest will have easy access to an outdoor pet walkways for exercise and green spaces for, quote, pet relief areas. So I think that's kind of where most people saw this article, and it just kind of stopped. But then the next part of this is also the one that's posted on the Disney Parks blog as well, just so everyone's aware. The next couple parts of this are what kind of make me think a little bit differently than I think what everyone else was seeing. There's a lot of stipulations to this. Dogs are allowed to stay in guest rooms and will be expected to be well behaved, leashed in public areas, and properly vaccinated. So basically, your dog has to stay quiet. They have to be well behaved, and they have to obviously be leashed, which is kind of understood.
Yeah.
But you also can't have in-room service at the time that the pet is in the room. So if you're in the room, or if you have a pet in the room and mousekeeping comes by, they're not going to stop at your room because you have to put like a designated tag on the door, I believe, that says "Do not disturb." And and then you have to actually call them in to say, hey, I want my room serviced. So they'll have to come back at a different time. So it kind of like, to me, what this sounds like is it's kind of the response to everything that happened with the hurricane. I know a lot of people talked about it, and people were booking stays at Disney that lived in Florida just to kind of be somewhere safe and to stay kind of in an area that they knew would have the entertainment and would be kind of like it's in its own little bubble. And I think in that couple day span where people were looking for that, you also had people that couldn't stay there because they had animals. This to me kind of sounds like it's like an emergency only type of thing, because really, who's going to bring their pet and have that much restricted on their Disney vacation?
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised. Like, I definitely know people that, not necessarily like huge Disney fans, but people that take their dog on every vacation. It's like, that doesn't sound like my idea of a vacation, because my idea of a vacation is only being responsible for myself. But I also don't have any pets for that reason.
I think the other stipulation, I gotta find the rest of this article because the one on the Disney Parks blog didn't go too far into it. But I believe the other one was that your dog can't stay unattended in the room for more than 7 hours. I think Brian and I talked about this.
Yeah.
And I think that's vaguely what it was. So it's like, it's very weirdly restricted to me, I think.
I just wonder how they're going to enforce any of this. Like, what if somebody forgets to put the do not disturb hanger on the door? What if they don't show up after their dog's been in the room for 7 hours? You know, do they have to provide like immunization records to show that their dogs are properly vaccinated? You know?
See, I'm thinking that the vaccination records is really going to be the only one that they are going to be able to enforce. But at the same time, it's hard for me to believe Disney's going to take someone that, you know, traveled a long way and brought their dog with them and tell them, no, you can't stay here.
Yeah.
But you gotta remember, Best Friends is right up the road.
That's true, but Best Friends has very, very, very limited availability. Being local, we try to take our dog there a lot when we're going to have an extended stay, or even if we're going to try to hit the parks all day long. It is very, very hard to get in there. You have to book a long time in advance. So that's why it's curious to me if someone does show up with a dog that was planning on staying there and they don't have the documentation, or if there's an issue with barking or something like that, what they're actually going to require the guest to do with their dog.
I heard, I can't find the source for this, and this is just kind of in me trying to read up on this, but I heard that you had a time frame that you had to get back there, and I would bet that Disney will charge a fee. If, like, you know, say your dog barks, they call you, you have maybe an hour to get back from where you are to your room to, like, kind of calm the dog down or whatever. I would bet that they'll probably charge some kind of fee on your room for that, and I'm sure that in the at least the Disney Parks blog article, it said that you have to make a note of that when you're booking your reservation. So I'm sure that they'll probably go over all of that. Probably should have tried to call them before we started this just to see what the stipulations are.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. I just feel like there's so much that can go wrong with this program. But, I mean, like I said, I know people who would gladly take their dog on every vacation, but they're like super, super well-behaved dogs, you know? It's like, I wonder the type of, like, the people that have the types of dogs that they think are well-behaved, but how are they going to react when they're in, like, a totally different place that they've never been before, and, you know, new smells and weird, like, unfamiliar territory. Like, maybe, I don't know if they'll behave similarly to how they do at home or not. So.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, I was trying to read this as well. There's a note on the Disney Parks blog, one that says, Disney enjoys a partnership with Best Friends Pet Care, an on-property full-service facility that can provide assistance with pet daycare and other pet services. Fees apply. So I think that strongly kind of hints at the fact that maybe if there is an issue, they will try to enforce something with them. But it's hard to say because, like Brian said, they have limited availability. So for now, I feel like this is just kind of, we're gonna have to see what goes on.
I wonder maybe if they'll book a block or like reserve a block
Of like rooms.
best friends for like potential people, like if they do book with their dog, like maybe they have like a couple of rooms on like reserve for that type of thing.
That would probably be the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, the other thing is the extra price that this incurs for anyone wanting to take advantage of it. I believe it's $50 a day for everything except the yacht club, and the yacht club is an extra $75 a day, so
Yeah.
it's not exactly cheap, especially when you're tacking that onto the price of a Disney vacation.
And you still, like, if you do use best friends, it's just a daycare, right? So you're paying for that and the $50 or $75 a night.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stack up quick.
Best Friends probably has some kind of kennel service too, I would believe.
True.
So let's tie up the news here, and then we'll talk about our exciting thing that I think is probably going to take up a lot of time, or at least a lot more time than we anticipate. This week we're going to be talking about FastPass Plus. Disney. I keep wanting to say this is Disney's new service, just because I remember the legacy FastPasses, but it's definitely not new anymore. This is Disney's way of kind of selecting your attractions prior to being in the park. Prior to this service, you would have to go up to a kiosk, insert your key to the kingdom or world or whatever it was card. I cannot remember the name of that.
I think it's Key to the World. Yeah.
I think it was Key to the World. But you insert your card into the kiosk, and it would print out a little paper slip, and it would give you the time, and it would give you the return time for your attraction. Sometimes these would be within an hour. Sometimes they would be like 5 hours from the time that you got there. But Disney's response to that was the FastPass Plus system that you can book on. You can book them online, can't you? Or is it just in the app?
Online.
Yeah, you can book them online.
Okay, I've never tried to book them online, so there's something I've never done. You can book them online or in app. The FastPass Plus system basically allows you to select 3 rides prior to your stay, and basically gives you priority access to these rides. I think that's pretty much the general overview of it. Do you guys have anything to add about that?
So I typed up a quick little thing just to go over, because the 2 most common questions that I have asked to me and that I hear people talking about while I'm in the parks, and they're wrong a surprising amount of the time, is when can I book my fast passes and how many of them can I get? So if you're on property, you can make them 60 days prior to the start of your reservation for the entirety of your stay, which means that if you are staying for a week, 60 days prior to that first day, you can make them for all 7 days of your trip. If you are,
a lot of people don't think about that one.
Right. If you're off property, you can make them 30 days prior, but that's for each day. So for example, you would make your first one 30 days prior, and you could only make that for that first day of the trip. The subsequent days you would have to do each day after that. You would make the fast passes for that next day. So this is definitely one of the things that Disney kind of uses to try to draw people to stay on property as opposed to off property. And this was another thing that I was talking with someone online with a few months ago. Swan and Dolphin counts as on-property hotels. They are Disney hotels. They're not, I forget how it works. They're not technically owned by Disney, but they're basically
Good
operated
neighbor.
by Disney. Yeah, and then, Swan and Dolphin aren't considered Good Neighbor, right? Because
I don't know.
Good Neighbors, this is what I had for mine, and I double-checked on this, and I'm not sure how they want to classify Swan and Dolphin, but Swan and Dolphin is separate than what Disney considers their Good Neighbor hotels, I think. Because the Good Neighbor hotels will be the other company hotels that are like in the Disney Springs area. Mm-hmm. Basically, if there's a company name before the hotel you're staying at in the Disney Springs area, that is a Good Neighbor hotel. It is not a Disney hotel. So it counts as an off-property hotel, even though you're technically on Disney property. Kind of confusing, but just keep that in mind, as far as when you get to do them.
I think it's just, like you said, it's just kind of it's a Disney resort that's not owned by Disney.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I never really understood how they work.
So I did a little bit of reading on it today because I was a little fuzzy on what it was too. There's not a whole lot of benefits that you get from staying at one of the Good Neighbor ones. From what I've seen, you get the ability to buy tickets in the lobby of these hotels, and obviously you get the closer proximity to it. But as far as that, you can't do fast passes ahead, like I said. You can't use it in conjunction with a Disney meal plan, or pretty much any of the other perks that come along with staying at a Disney hotel.
You do get extra magic hours, though.
You do?
Because I stayed at the Hilton at Disney Springs, and we got extra magic hours.
Okay, I did not know that. So that's another one then.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Or at least back in 2012.
And then this is probably the most common thing that I hear people talk about in the parks, and very frequently are wrong, and I completely understand it because it's very confusing, especially if you're a person that's used to doing the paper style fast passes from back in the day. But yet you get to make 3 advanced fast passes for each day for one singular park. So that doesn't matter if you have park hoppers or if you only have single day tickets to the parks. Your 3 advanced fast passes have to be in one park. After you use your first 3 initial fast passes, you can then add fast passes one at a time, either using the MDE app, or if you go to one of the kiosks located throughout the parks, or if you happen to have brought your computer in, you can do it on your computer too. But those you can make for either the same park that you made your initial 3 fast passes in, or for any other park that you wish to go to after that if you have park hoppers. So that's what I have. I don't know if y'all have any other things to add about when and where and how to get your fast passes.
I think that's a pretty good overview of them. And definitely remember that the rolling fast passes need to be made after all of your fast passes are used, not just the first one, because I've heard that one too.
Yes.
And I know you did touch on that, but I like to kind of reiterate that because I heard someone say, I used my first fast pass, now I can go make another one, and you can't. Like, you're pretty much locked out.
Unless that was the only one that you made for the day.
Fair enough.
That's true.
Yes.
Does it let you do that? Because I always get locked into 3.
Because I've done it before where I've gone on a day and we've set it up where we're going to hop from somewhere to another park. So we'll only make like 1 or 2 at one park so that we can make an earlier one at the second park that we want to go to after we do it. So we'll hit like 2 rides or something early in the morning and then hop somewhere else. And then that way, it's 11 or 12 o'clock and we're able to go ahead and make the other fast pass for the other park.
I never thought about it that way, and that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I definitely want to touch on, because this is part of the reason that I wanted to do this topic, the FastPass Plus system is very confusing, especially to someone that has never done it before. So, kind of like we talked about last week, there's a lot that goes into Disney planning, and we want to help you with that. So,
I know when we talked about it last week, we said that under planning is a very, very easy way to completely ruin your vacation, and fast passes are one of the more confusing aspects of it, but it's definitely one that I frequently hear people come back and complain about, that either didn't utilize fast passes at all or didn't utilize them very efficiently, and they come back and they complain that all they did was wait in line all day. And I guarantee you, if you're willing to do a little bit of research about which ones you need to get, which ones will be better to use, and what time of day you should shoot for getting each one, you'll come out way happier. So hopefully this podcast is part of that anyone that is planning initial trips that, you know, you can come out of this with having a little bit better understanding and listen to some of our opinions on which rides that we think are most necessary to have the fast passes for, because you definitely don't want to spend all day waiting in the parks, because there's a lot of stuff to do and you'll miss out on a lot if you're standing in line all day.
So,
sure.
kind of off of that, I think that's a good way to segue into the next little bit about which fast passes are essentials. We can take a little bit of time at the end to kind of touch on everything else too, and you know, some other common misconceptions about the fast pass system and all that. But I think this is where a lot of the bulk of confusion comes from. Disney has tried to kind of make it a little more streamlined with, like, some of the parks have tiered systems, some of the parks let you pick whatever you want. But I think that's only made things a little bit worse on the end of, like, wow, this is confusing. So the way that I think we're going to do this is we'll go park by park. We'll start with the easiest being Magic Kingdom, and then we'll kind of discuss our ideal fast passes. I want to keep this as realistic as possible. So obviously there's no way you're going to get fast passes for, like, Navi River Journey and Flight of Passage, even though they're different tiers. So try to keep it in, like, you know, perspective of which rides you would be able to get on and which ones you wouldn't be able to get on. So for Magic Kingdom, that's the easiest out of any of the parks for fast pass structuring, I guess I should say. You have access to pretty much every attraction in Magic Kingdom that has Fast Pass Plus access. So It's a Small World, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, Dumbo, Enchanted Tales with Belle, Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise, Mad Tea Party, Anna and Elsa's Meet and Greet, Ariel at Grotto, Cinderella, Mickey Mouse at Town Square Theater, Rapunzel and, quote, A Visiting Princess, Mickey's PhilharMagic, Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, Peter Pan's Flight, Pirates of the Caribbean, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, Barnstormer, Magic Carpets of Aladdin, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Tomorrowland Speedway, and Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid. In a perfect world, my 3 fast passes, I would probably say the 3 that I think are the longest wait times, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Peter Pan. It's kind of unlikely that in a perfect world I'll get both of them. It has happened before, but that's ultra perfect world, and I don't think that that's ever going to happen to me again. But probably I would do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train because that's the longest. Also, side note, if you're ever going to try to get that, I believe you still have to get up fairly early to do that, because fast passes for that go pretty quick.
Yep.
I would also probably do, I want to say Haunted Mansion, just because that's my favorite attraction. So I have that personal attachment that I'm going to want to ride it more than once. Even though the queue in that's great, I would probably never skip that if I had to. But just having the option to kind of walk onto it a second time is great. And usually I end up with Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin because it's fairly easy to get a fast pass for. And the earlier I can get that third fast pass, the earlier I can get access to my next ones. So I think that's usually my strategy for fast passes in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, for me, I also, for my number 1 and 2 were Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Peter Pan's Flight. Not that those are, you know, my favorite attractions by any means, but like you said, the queue is always, like, super long, and the experience itself is so short that it's not worth waiting in line for more than, you know, half an hour. Even then, that's too much for me personally. But my third one, I would say, is the Mickey Mouse Meet and Greet at Town Square Theater, because that's, you know, it's the talking Mickey. It gets pretty popular, and the waits can get pretty crazy. But
yeah, it's a fair option for your next one.
But yeah, I also thought about putting Haunted Mansion since it's my favorite attraction. But like you mentioned, the queue it's like, I don't mind standing in that line because of the queue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually not crazy long anyway.
Yeah. So I'm right there with y'all. My number 1 is Seven Dwarfs. Number 2 is Peter Pan. For number 3, I put Space Mountain. It still generally has a pretty long wait. I would say it's consistently over an hour on most days that I go. After those initial 3, I will usually try to grab one for either Splash Mountain or Jungle Cruise. That can be a little difficult to do, and you may have to be willing to push that till later in the day to grab one of those. But on the flip side, Magic Kingdom has a lot of other stuff to do in between. If you do want to do that, it won't have very long wait times usually. So it kind of depends on how you want to hit it. If you do want to try to grab a lower tier FastPass for something to do right then, or try to grab one of the e-ticket attraction ones for later in the day and kind of fill the rest of the time up to that with your lower tier ticket attractions, just depending on how you want to hit it. But I try to get the bigger e-ticket ones later in the day.
So I kind of want to make a side note here. I've mentioned it on the show before a couple times that sometimes when we go on our trips, I won't book fast passes at the allotted time, just because I usually, now it's my girlfriend and I, it's the two of us. It's not always incredibly hard to get fast passes for a lot of things, but at the same time there are priorities. So Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, if you don't get that pretty early, odds are you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
But that said, you may get lucky. So if you're someone that this is your first trip, book 3 fast passes for things that you're going to think you want to get. If you look in the app today and you see that, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Space Mountain have the longest lines, those are your priorities. Those are the ones you want to go after. But also don't be afraid to change it up, because people cancel vacations. People, book their fast passes for that day and then they decide they don't want them. So things happen and they pop up in the app all the time.
Yep. It's a lot of luck, a lot of planning, but it comes down to luck a lot of times. And I can vouch for a lot of that, especially because I, being local, usually won't end up making fast passes until maybe a week ahead of time, 2 weeks sometime if there's something special that we're going for. So I am almost never booking mine within that 30-day allotted window. So, and I'll say the only one that's at Magic Kingdom, at least, that's consistently hard to get is Seven Dwarfs. Almost everything else, a week ahead of time, you can usually get. So don't feel like, you have to, rack your brain about this and be constantly watching the app day in and day out as you're planning your trip. Just consistently check it every couple of days or so. And if there's stuff that you really want, chances are by the time you go, it will open up at some point.
And I think Brian pretty much, I know we all kind of gave our lists, but I think Brian gave pretty much the priority ones. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Space Mountain always has a line. And then, what was the other one? Thank you. I drew a blank there. Peter Pan's Flight. The 3 of those are usually, I want to say I've seen Space Mountain at 45 plus on average. Peter Pan's usually about 60 on average. And Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, that can be anywhere from like 120. Like, it's crazy to think about some of these line times.
I rarely see Seven Dwarfs less than an hour and a half. So
yeah.
But that is probably the easiest one out of all of them, and then this is where Disney starts to lose people, I think. The next group of them have tiered systems. So starting with Epcot, you have Group A, which you get to choose one Fast Pass from. So you have Frozen Ever After, Illuminations, Soarin', and Test Track. That's your first choice of Fast Pass. And you have Group B, which you get to choose 2 Fast Passes from, which is the Character Spot, Disney and Pixar Short Film Festival, Journey into Imagination, Living with the Land, Mission Space, Spaceship Earth, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, and Turtle Talk with Crush. I kind of get why they did it. They don't want people to grab up all those fast passes for the good rides and then just have everyone kind of stuck with like, oh, I got Spaceship Earth and Living with the Land, which are usually like pretty easy to get on, and that's it. But I also think that this is just a little bit too confusing for first timers.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week with under planning. Is like, if someone looks at this list and doesn't do any research, then maybe they think that they need a fast pass for Journey into Imagination, when in reality, I don't think I've ever waited more than like 5 minutes for that.
When in reality, you really shouldn't even go on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Ouch. Awful burn.
Hey, no, I've had it for like 3 weeks, y'all kicking around Country Bear, so I'm going to have to throw some shade at Figment.
I like Figment as a character, but that ride leaves a lot to be desired. I was a fan of the comic books. That's why I like Figment, not because of the ride. But
So, my picks, I'm actually going to rule out Frozen Ever After right off the bat. I know that that's like a high wait time ride, and that's probably priority for a lot of people. But in the last couple trips that I've gone on where I've had the ability to fast pass that ride, I have never seen a fast pass for that ride. If you want Frozen Ever After, my best suggestion, and this still has not gotten me a fast pass for it, so take it for what it is. Like Brian said earlier in the show, you can book within that time window as soon as it hits, I think it's 60 days, right?
If you are staying on property,
Yeah, if you're on property, it's 60 days. Once you hit that 60 days, that's your whole trip. If you want Frozen Ever After, that is going to have to be your last day. And the only reason I say that is because some people haven't hit that 30-day window. For some people, that's going to be their first day or their middle day, and you're booking kind of in advance off of that. Frozen Ever After is still one of the most popular attractions right now, and it's definitely one that the line exceeds the time that we talked about for Seven Dwarfs. So this is one a lot of people won't go on if they don't get that fast pass. But for that sake, I'm going to rule that out of my list. I'm going to say my first fast pass from Group A is probably always going to be, and I hate to say this because I've listed this as a horrible attraction, but Soarin', I never see that wait time go down. It's pretty consistent. Test Track, here and there, I'll get some time where the ride will either go down or it's super low on wait times and I can just kind of walk in. Then after that, Group B, I think, is pretty much kind of, for lack of a better word, a crapshoot.
Yeah.
You have pretty much just a barrel of rides that you can pretty much walk on for the most part. I would probably say this is the easiest one to get your rolling fast passes for because you can do them all pretty early in the morning. Out of the list that we have, I'd probably do Mission Space. Maybe Nemo. Maybe Journey into Imagination just to burn a fast pass, but I think this is where it becomes really hard for people like us that go a lot.
And this is one of the big downsides to the tiered FastPass system is that you have so many of these at the end where it's like, I guess I'll grab that third FastPass for something. It's something that you don't really want a FastPass for. And the issue with that is now people are snatching up the FastPasses, which is like increasing the length of the standby line. And I feel like a lot of people would even skip some of these rides if they hadn't, picked up that third FastPass because it was available.
I think that was the argument against FastPass Plus originally.
Right.
At least this system of FastPass Plus.
Because I see this a lot with certain rides, and especially at Epcot, it seems like Living with the Land is one of the biggest ones that I see. You'll go and, from like 9 to maybe 1 o'clock, there's usually never a line. And then after that, you can tell people have started, using up all their fast passes and they start snatching them up. So then the fast pass line for Living with the Land starts getting backed up, which means that the regular standby line starts getting backed up, and it's one of the few times that you'll actually see a wait with a ride like Living with the Land. And I love Living with the Land. That's one of my favorite rides, but I think it kind of, the fast pass plus experience for it actually kind of makes it a little bit worse.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It sucks because, like I was saying, it's very easy to just kind of go, I guess this ride, maybe that one. Because really, like, honestly, when I'm in Epcot, I don't really want to do rides that much.
Well,
Yeah,
I
me
feel
either.
the same way. I'm there to do World Showcase most of the time, and then maybe throw a ride or two in there. But until this big expansion comes to Epcot, that I feel like that will be my feelings on Epcot. Is it's got some decent rides, but World Showcase is what I feel like you should go to Epcot for.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me. I always try to make a point to ride Spaceship Earth just to get a little whiff of Rome burning. But other than that, I don't really care that much about the rides at Epcot.
So I kind of want to, before you guys give your lists, I was just thinking about Brian's point about how this builds the lines. If you think about it, there are definitely some rides that don't have Fast Pass for them. For example, Grand Fiesta Tour, which you've all heard my feelings about that attraction. It's always a walk-on, first of all. And it doesn't have Fast Pass, obviously, because they don't have any room for it. But that one, I feel like, would have the same fate as all these other ones, where it's like, okay, it's a walk-on now. You could literally check the wait times in the app. It never goes above 5 minutes. At a FastPass kiosk, people are going to be selecting it just because it's in World Showcase. It's right there. It's a ride to burn a FastPass.
Yep.
And then the wait times are going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
So now you guys can go ahead now that I've thrown that out there.
Well, like you guys kind of said too, I don't typically even bother with fast passes at Epcot, but if I were, I'd probably do Test Track from the first tier, just because, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the new Soarin'. I'd rather ride Test Track. And then for my other two, I would probably pick Mission Space, and then I love Living with the Land. I wouldn't pick that as like a consolation prize. I would pick it because I actually wanted to ride it, and like Brian was saying, it's like sometimes that line does get stacked up because people see it's one of the only things left. So that's one that I'd probably even make in advance if I wasn't going to ride it first thing, just because I absolutely adore that ride. And then if I, for my rolling one, maybe the character spot, and the very rare chance that there's one for Illuminations left. I did look, out of curiosity, I went on the FastPass site and looked to see what was available tomorrow, and there were still Illuminations ones tomorrow, so I was like, maybe there's a chance. I've never tried it, but,
Where is the FastPass spot for Illuminations? I don't think I've ever really taken note of that.
Isn't it that little spot near Italy?
I thought one of them was for a dessert party, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, no, I think you're right. I think that is for the dessert party. There's I can't remember what country it's beside, but there's this little rounded area.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not 100% sure. We can come back to that one.
Yeah.
But I will say I have FastPassed Wishes when that was a thing. Probably wouldn't FastPass Fireworks again.
Yeah.
One of the things that kind of sucked about it was that they corralled everyone into those little hubgrass areas, which the areas themselves are nice, but being squished in a group with a bunch of other people was not. And I think a lot of people would either use that as their rolling fast pass and grab it at the end of the day, or as one of those things that you would not know that you could get a rolling fast pass and kind of lock it in just because you're like, oh, I need a good spot for Wishes. Now that said, I've done it twice just to kind of test it out. I got one good viewing experience and one really bad viewing experience. So it's kind of hit or miss, I think. You'd have probably just the same amount of luck not fast passing it.
Yeah, and Illuminations isn't typically something that I stick around for anyway, but I don't know. I looked it
I
up.
love Illuminations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike it. It's just, I don't know. I've seen it so many times. It's not something that I make time for most trips. But I did look it up, and this is actually news to me. The FastPass spot for Illuminations is where World Showcase Lagoon and Future World meet, between those two gift shops. I don't remember that being
Interesting.
FastPass, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't normally stick around for Illumination, so that would make sense.
Right.
And that's probably the best spot to watch it, so I guess that would be why they'd pick it. But
Brian, what's your fast pass selection for Epcot?
So for Epcot, I'm going to say that of the ones that do tiered FastPass system, I would have to say that Epcot's like upper tier, I think, is the like weakest as far as what they offer. So it really comes down to personal preference on stuff. I would say I picked Frozen for my number one from that category, because I feel like if you are going to do Frozen, like you said, you need to get a fast pass for it. Soarin's pretty easy to rope drop, so if you really want to do Soarin' and one of the other ones like Frozen or Test Track from that top tier, I would suggest you picking up a fast pass for one of the other ones and then trying to rope drop Soarin'. So that's why I went with Frozen for my number one. And then after that, it's kind of just what you feel like. I picked Mission Space Orange for my number two, and then Spaceship Earth for number three. And then I would say after that, I would just go to World Showcase after that, personally. Probably try to get on Living with the Land, but again, I think that's just a walk-on you could get on. But yeah, there's not a whole lot else in Epcot that I would really spend the time and let interrupt anything I had planned for the rest of the day with a fast pass. Just my personal opinion. So,
I mean, it's valid, and the thing about Epcot, kind of like we said, the big attractions that are in Epcot's Group A are the only ones that are really worth a fast pass anyway, in terms of wait times. But that said, we can move on to a park that doesn't have many attractions at all. Disney's Hollywood Studios.
allow me to vent just for a sec. Just the overall fact that Hollywood Studios has a tiered fast pass system, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. There's not enough rides. Just case in point for them to have a tiered fast pass system. And on top of that, I think what they choose to put in the tiers doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
I 100% agree.
So
I kind of agree with you. Let's go through the fast passes first so everyone can kind of understand what we're talking about. You have Group A is Toy Story Midway Mania, Beauty and the Beast Live on Stage, Fantasmic, and Rock and Roller Coaster. Weirdly enough, I would think that Tower of Terror should be in this group.
exactly.
But it's not.
Yep.
Hollywood Studios Group B is, for the first time in forever, a Frozen Sing-Along Celebration, Disney Junior, Voyage of the Little Mermaid, Indiana Jones, Star Tours, Muppet Vision, and Tower of Terror. Now, it's the same system that Epcot has, where Group A you get one of, Group B you get two of. So, first of all, I totally agree with everything you just said, Brian. Beauty and the Beast should not be a tier A.
No, not at all.
Fantasmic I can kind of see, just because the other, I guess, theatrical fireworks shows were a Group A originally, because I remember Wishes was as well. So I kind of see that.
And also the section for Fantasmic has the best view for the Fast Pass.
Fair.
Like the Mickey section, you know?
And then
my
at the same time, Tower of Terror should definitely be up there. But
Yeah.
all that aside, Midway Mania is probably everyone's top. Am I fair in saying that?
It's my top.
It's my second, but yeah, it's the one I would pick from the first tier.
So The reason behind that is that's got an incredible wait time. And I think this suffers from the same thing that Brian kind of said with the other ones, where it's like, it definitely deserves the wait, first of all, because it's new-ish. And it's a good attraction, but the FastPass system has definitely boosted the waits on this. And probably more for the fact that this is a Group A one and Tower of Terror isn't. Like, I feel like that's definitely got something to do with that. But disregarding that, Toy Story Midway Mania easily exceeds an hour wait time at peak park times, so definitely one that you want to grab. I haven't had trouble with that lately. Have you guys?
It's been a really long time since I've been to studios.
Are you
Ouch.
saying with getting a fast pass for it, or with the wait times being long?
With getting a fast pass for it, because I know originally, like, it was fairly hard, and it was the same situation as Frozen was, where you would have to be up at your 60-day mark, and it would have to be the last day you were there. But I think it's significantly died down.
It's not that bad anymore. Wait times have not died down, I'll say that for sure. But getting a fast pass isn't that difficult. I don't know if, since they've opened up the new track, if they're allowing more fast passes to come through, which I would imagine is the case. So it's not really difficult. I usually don't have any problem doing it a week or so ahead of time to get one for it.
Just for funsies, I looked it up, and there's a ton of fast passes for it tomorrow.
Okay, so it's fairly easy, which is good. So I would say either that or Rock and Roller Coaster would be my number one out of Group A. After that, it's very similar situation to Epcot, except I'm always going to grab that Tower of Terror Fast Pass.
Yeah.
So you probably would want to go Toy Story, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror if you're a thrill person. And then after that, I would say everything is pretty much easy walk-ons. Star Tours maybe being the only exception if it's a busy day.
Yeah.
So I would say my lock-in is probably Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, and then Star Tours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For the...
That's pretty much what I'd pick too.
Yeah, for the year and a half now that I've had my annual pass, I don't think I've ever set up a day at Hollywood Studios where I didn't have either Toy Story Mania or Rock and Roller Coaster is that tier A pick, and then Tower of Terror and Star Wars is the two from the Group B. There's just, I don't know what else you'd use it for.
You don't need them.
Yeah, Muppet Vision. Look, I love Muppet Vision. I think it's great. If you're using a fast pass for it, you did not plan well, because you can walk onto that any time of the day or night.
Well, and the thing about that, Star Tours and Muppet Vision are similar attractions in the fact that they're 3D rides, and I think that's pretty much where that similarity ends. But the conception is that they are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Muppet Vision basically corrals you into the loading area, opens the doors to a huge theater, and the longest wait that you're gonna have is waiting for the movie to end.
Right. So
Yeah, and I mean, look at this. Like if you're looking at this Group B, like the second tier, Star Tours is really the only like genuine attraction. The rest are other than Tower of Terror, of course, but like the rest are shows, and they have these huge seating areas. It's like maybe if you don't use a fast pass, you're not going to get like the number one best seat in the house, but you're still going to be able to see fine.
Right, and that's why I would personally suggest not using fast passes for stage shows, just because your wait is determined on when you showed up during the previous show. So if you want to wait until the last one lets out and get in line, sure, like you said, you might not get the best seat, but you're not really skipping a wait by using a fast pass. If anything, you're kind of having to show, because I don't know if they still do this. Before, you kind of had to show up to the fast pass earlier than the show started by like 15 minutes or so. That might have changed. But so you would actually kind of be waiting in the fast pass line, whereas some people might just walk onto the standby line right before the show let in. So.
While we're kind of talking about shows and stuff, just because Fantasmic is in the Group A, and I want to take a moment to kind of talk about this. Fantasmic has almost a free FastPass option. I know it's not as ideal anymore, but there are Fantasmic dining packages available in Hollywood Studios. So I've done them a couple times. The viewing area is pretty alright. The food is fairly average. It's not incredible. But definitely don't lock yourself down for that. It's not worth it, especially when you have that option as well. The viewing area for the FastPass is nice, but you put yourself in a situation where you really can't FastPass anything else. Mm-hmm. Not that you really need it, but there's definitely better Tier A attractions.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, I don't think I've ever used a FastPass for Fantasmic, and I've never had a bad view.
Have either of you done the dining for Fantasmic?
No.
Okay, so how it works, it's very similar to what Brian just said about you show up a couple minutes before, but you get, if you go at certain times to Hollywood Brown Derby, Hollywood and Vine, or Mama Melrose, you get basically a little almost FastPass thing that says, hey, I get special seating. I did the dining package for this this attraction, and you get to walk into a special seating area. They do make you show up early, so it is kind of like a little bit of it knocks some time out, and the food selections aren't awful. I've done Hollywood and Vine a couple times because it's a buffet. Quick grab your food and then go out to Fantasmic kind of thing. But it's definitely nice, and like I said, it saves you that fast pass, so that's my touring tip. Mm-hmm. So Brian, what's your list? I'm very excited to see if Voyage of the Little Mermaid is on here.
It is not, actually. I do like it, but it did not make my list. I went Toy Story Mania, Tower of Terror, Star Wars for my initial 3. And seriously, after that, I would open the app, see if I could grab one for Rock and Roller Coaster and get lucky. And if not, then I'm probably just not going to pick up another FastPass because nothing else needs it. So those would be my suggestions.
I think that's a very good suggestion. I like that you keep including the rolling fourth because I really didn't think about that. And for the most part, you've pretty much selected the ones that I would have. So the next one, which I really think we're all probably going to have very similar choices for this one as well. Animal Kingdom. It's definitely changed since the last time I was there, and granted, I wasn't there when Pandora was open. So your Tier A, you have both of the attractions in Pandora, Flight of Passage and River Journey. You have Tier B, which is Dinosaur, Expedition Everest, Nemo, Flights of Wonder, It's Tough to Be a Bug, Cali River Rapids, Kilimanjaro Safaris, Meet Favorite Disney Pals at Adventure Outpost, Primeval Whirl, and Rivers of Light. I want to hear your opinions first because I haven't done Pandora, so I have like zero say on this.
I just want to say, if you have the option between Flight of Passage and Navi River Journey, like in a perfect world when none of the all of the fast passes are available, if you pick Navi River Journey, you're making a huge mistake.
Yeah.
So, real quick, for both of those, I know we've talked on this before, but if this is someone's first episode, one, how hard is it to get a fast pass? Two, which one would you rather go on solely based on the queue and the theming alone?
So I'm going to still say extremely hard to get one for Flight of Passage. Mm-hmm. And honestly, let me think how I want to phrase this. Navi River Journey is by no means a top-tier Disney attraction. That said, I don't think it's an experience that you should miss, especially because of how well it ties together with the whole theming of Pandora. But honestly, a Flight of Passage is just hands down a better ride than Navi River Journey. And I know everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I honestly don't know how someone could have the opinion of Navi River Journey being better than Flight of Passage.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, I don't know. I feel like Navi River Journey doesn't tell any sort of story. It's just like a pretty scenery type of thing. Whereas Flight of Passage is such an amazing, like, immersive experience.
Yeah,
You know?
completely agree.
But
now,
like
one
you
of the
said,
big reasons...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of the big reasons that I do say don't miss Navi River Journey is I am a huge fan of Disney animatronics, and the shaman at the end of Navi River Journey is probably the greatest animatronic aside from the original pre-Disco Yeti on Expedition Everest that Disney's ever done. So definitely check it out if you get the chance. You should be able to pick up this FastPass or just walk onto the attraction. The wait times usually aren't super terrible because everyone is trying to get on Flight of Passage, so Navi River Journey isn't very difficult to get on. But again, if you're looking for fast passes, try your best to get Flight of Passage first. It's kind of weird to me that Navi River Journey is in that same tier as Flight of Passage because, and I get that it's because they're the two new rides that are at Pandora, but it really seems like, you know, Expedition Everest or maybe even Kilimanjaro belongs in that top tier fast pass ahead of Navi River Journey.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like, I feel like the reason that someone would pick Navi River Journey as their tier 1 is because Flight of Passage is unavailable. But I would also say that if you don't get a Flight of Passage Fast Pass right off the bat, to keep checking back, because they at least they have been releasing them in kind of batches. So like Kirsten, for example, she has a trip planned for November, and she woke up like when the Fast Passes, like before the Fast Passes opened, she was waiting at the computer, and she's like, they were already gone. Like, she couldn't get any Fast Passes for Flight of Passage. And then me, being the huge nerd that I am, was sitting at work one day and just like, I wonder what Fast Passes are available. And just happened to look, and I was like, wow, there's like a ton for Flight of Passage. And I like let her know, and she was able to get them. So it's like, just because it's not available when you first try to book it, like, check back every day or so, like every couple of days, and you know, it's not impossible to get one.
I think that's a really good tip for pretty much any of these big ticket ones. Like, it's just because you haven't gotten it doesn't mean you shouldn't check back.
But
So I guess to go through and actually give my order, I did Flight of Passage for my number 1, obviously. Number 2 was Kilimanjaro Safaris. And number 3, I picked Dinosaur. So it probably needs a little bit of explanation, I would think. Kilimanjaro Safaris, I would suggest getting a Fast Pass for, mainly so that you can select the time that you go. One of the things is the animals are going to be more active in the morning or when it's cooler, later at night. So if you do get to pick Fast Passes, you're probably going to want to pick a Fast Pass for one of those times so that when you get on the ride, you know, you get your most experience out of it. So number 3 for Dinosaur, I would imagine y'all probably put Expedition Everest for this one. And it's definitely not a bad Fast Pass to get, but I honestly, it seems like Dinosaur has a longer wait than Everest most of the time that I'm in the park, which doesn't make sense to me, but that's just happened to be what I see most of the times when I go. So Expedition Everest is pretty easy to get on with less than a 30-minute wait throughout the day at certain points, but Dinosaur usually consistently longer than that, I would say.
yeah,
I actually had Dinosaur on mine too.
Okay.
I put Everest as my number 3, but I did put Dinosaur as my roaming, like my 4th one.
I did this kind of differently. I did Flight of Passage as my first, just based on what you guys have said. Obviously, I haven't had the chance to go down yet to see Avatar, but out of the two of them, Flight of Passage seems to be the one that I think I would enjoy more. I actually did it a little bit backwards from what you did. I did Expedition Everest and Dinosaur for mine, but basically for the reason that Brian said with Dinosaur, I 100% agree on. Everest, I think that's a ride that I could ride more than once, and typically I will. So if I can get in that line and just kind of jump in and get into it, it's fine. I don't think there's a wrong way to fast pass Animal Kingdom, though. I do want to say that. A lot of these rides, like, granted, maybe it's a tough to be a bug fast pass is wrong, in the sense that that's always a walk-on, but I don't think that you can really go wrong in this park. I think this is tiered fast passing done right.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I will say, I think Animal Kingdom offers you you get the most out of using fast passes at Animal Kingdom. So in other words, what you're getting to pick from a lot of top tier attractions in both categories. So whereas like we talked about Hollywood Studios and Epcot, your B tier ones are kind of, just something to throw in there. Whereas at Animal Kingdom, you're getting to pick, hopefully I don't know what you want to call it, if you want to call it an F ticket, because Flight of Passage is like just on another level in my opinion of what Disney offers. So that should be your one to pick, but you've got a whole lot of other e-tickets to pick for, even in your tier B. So really your 3 fast pass pluses, and then even your roaming fast pass, your rolling fast pass, if you get the chance to use it, you're likely going to get 4 e-ticket attractions at Animal Kingdom.
I think that's a pretty fair reasoning. I don't know. I don't think that there's anything wrong with any of the attractions in this park. And even if you do like the meet and greets and stuff like that, it's not like you're burning it on something that you could have just walked up to. I think Animal Kingdom is the one with the most steady wait times spread all around the park. And I think that's the easiest one to just wing it and do your passes right. Aside from the Avatar ones, because obviously you have to get them early.
Yeah.
So,
but I will say, just as a side note, if you are in the situation where you don't get a fast pass for Flight of Passage, it's not a total bust, because the queue is absolutely amazing. And a lot of that, you skip over a lot of it if you do the fast pass line. So, if you don't happen to get one, don't get disheartened. Just take the time to enjoy the details of the queue.
So, I posted on Twitter literally like maybe an hour before we even started recording, and I actually got a couple of responses. I asked everyone what their must fast passes are in all of Disney, just to kind of make it a little bit broad and see what people said across the board. And I think pretty much most of them are similar veins. We had at Disney Discussions said, at Disney _discussions said Toy Story, Seven Dwarfs, Frozen Ever After, Everest, Peter Pan, and Space Mountain. They kind of went all over the board with that one. So it's pretty cool to see that we kind of hit a lot of their top attractions. We also had at Home at the Castle said Toy Story Midway Mania, which I think is, we kind of touched on that one enough with the fact that you really do need to fast pass that. And we also had Sam Zimmerman, which is at Reverend _Freako on Twitter, said Haunted Mansion and Pirates. I think Pirates was one that we didn't really talk about. I think the wait time on Pirates is low enough that usually we can get onto it. But if it's an attraction you really like, I can definitely see fast passing it to get it on it more than once. So, are there anything else you guys want to touch on with fast pass? Any common misconceptions? Anything that you guys want to help some maybe first-time people out with?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of, just going back to the whole Avatar thing, I feel like a lot of people do kind of rag on Navi River Journey because I feel like the expectation was set very high, and Flight of Passage exceeded the expectation, and Navi River Journey just pales in comparison to it. But if you take it aside and look at it like just by itself and try not to compare it to anything, it's really not that bad. It's not a bad ride. And like Brian said, the Shaman of Songs animatronic is 100% worth like at least riding it once to see that. So I would definitely, like, if you can't get Flight of Passage, definitely do Navi River Journey if you can get that. So don't just think because we're such huge Flight of Passage fans that you shouldn't ride Navi River Journey at all. Because it is worth riding.
What about you, Brian? Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to kind of throw around?
Just like we touched on before, I know I said at the beginning of the episode, it's confusing, no doubt, especially from how it used to be. But we said in the last episode too, this is kind of the game. This is how it is going to Disney now. If you're planning on showing up and buying your tickets at the gate and walking in and, you know, having a good time and doing things efficiently, it's probably not going to happen anymore. You got to do some planning, and you got to, you know, do research going into it to figure out how to utilize things as efficiently as possible. And FastPass is probably the biggest part of that. So take the time, you know, hopefully this podcast helped to explain some of it and everything, but if not, there are tons of resources online to help you plan it out. If you go to touringplans.com is one that I used before and still use occasionally now to look up, that will help you kind of map your day out and give you suggestions, and it even keeps up with FastPass availability like in real time, or if you're planning it in the future, it shows you if they're still available or not. So take the time to do this. In my opinion, fast passes are the biggest part of your trip, and making sure that you have fun and aren't frustrated by waiting in line all day. So take time to do it.
That said, we probably should have mentioned this last week, but a subscription to touring plans is fairly inexpensive. And if you're planning a Disney trip for the first time, definitely check it out. I would recommend pretty much everything that they have to offer, and it's a really good way to kind of, I guess, take a little bit of the stress off of yourself and kind of get some inside information about how things work. But it's definitely a great tool to use. I think it's like $4, $4 or $5. It's not super expensive. Can anyone confirm that? Or
I want to say it's like you get like a year for like $12 or something.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere around there.
I don't know. It's been a while since I bought because I bought like a 2-year one. I think I did buy a 2-year one, and it was like $12 or $13. So maybe it is like around $6 a year.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm looking at it now. It's actually tiered subscription, so you save a little bit when you book a different level subscriptions. 1 year is $14.95, 2 years is $24.90, 3 years is $35.85, and that's for everything. That's their crowd calendar, their line. I think like the wait times, all the data that they have. It's a great tool to use if you're kind of nervous about your first trip.
Mm-hmm. And even like, you know, as many times as I've been, I still use it for every trip.
Disclaimer, we are not sponsored by Touring Plans.
Nope, but we'd like to be. No, I'm just kidding.
But even if you decide to use one of the free resources, there's tons of stuff out there that you can use to help help you with it if you don't have a good understanding of it right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job wrapping that up. Does anybody else have any final thoughts that you guys want to say before we sign off for this week?
No, I think we covered it.
All right, and that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave us an iTunes review as well so we can take a moment to read them on the show and kind of interact with you guys. If you like what you listen to, be sure to find us on any social media. We're on Twitter at Station71Pod, Facebook at facebook.com/Station71Pod, and Instagram at Station71Podcast. You can also send us your listener emails to Station71Podcast@gmail.com, and we'll take a moment to read them on the show if you guys have anything you want to talk about. Maybe you're confused about your FastPasses. Maybe, you have a topic you want us to talk about. We'll take the time to kind of go over some of that stuff and maybe interact with you guys a little bit. We hope you guys enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.